What's going on, guys? It's been quite a while since I've posted a video. This off season has been really busy for me. I've just been doing all kinds of other projects, but drifting season is coming up here in a few weeks, so it's time to get the E36 back together and ready to go. As you can probably tell behind me, I haven't done much to it since the off season. So today there's one really big upgrade that I want to do that I've been meaning to do for a while, and that's going to be upgrading the axles. If you watched my previous video, I already upgraded the inner CV joints on the axle. I found one that fit, that was a little bit stronger, and that seems to have been holding up, but now I'm just breaking the outer CV joints, and those aren't replaceable or serviceable. So it's time to just bite the bullet and do something that's going to hold up a lot better to all the power that the 2JZ is making. Now, I thought about it for a while, and I was really thinking about doing a winter's quick change and custom axles that will hold up to 1,000 wheel, just because I'm so sick of having to swap axles. I've probably broken at least 7 of them now, gotten to the point where I can change an axle in about 5 minutes, but I still hate doing it. It sucks. So I want the car to be a lot more reliable than that, where I don't have to be changing axles all the time. However, to do the winter's quick change and custom axles, the kits that you can buy require that you already have M3 rear trailing arms. They don't work with the stock E36 trailing arms, which a whole M3 rear end conversion is a popular upgrade anyways, as the M3 axles are a lot stronger than the stock ones. So I figured since I have to do that anyways, I might as well just try that route, see how they last. If I still have problems, then I can go to a winter's quick change later. But for now, we're just going to run the M3 stuff. Hopefully they last a lot longer than the stock axles, but we'll just have to see. So as you can see here, we've got an M3 axle on the left and a normal E36 axle that I've already broken on the right. You can see there's quite a big difference in the shaft diameter, and there's also a pretty significant difference in the outer CV joint size. They're a lot beefier on the M3. And even the inner CV joint is quite a bit thicker than the stock ones. So overall, much stronger axle. Hopefully it can handle what we're throwing at it. And then here we have the rear trailing arm. To do M3 axles in a regular E36, you have to swap the rear trailing arms because of the size of the outer CV joint. And because you're swapping the rear trailing arms, you also need the M3 brakes. So I was able to pick up this whole M3 trailing arm, brake assembly, and axles for a few $100 used. They were pretty rusty, so I had to clean them up and paint them. But I got all that done, new bearings, new bushings. So the only other thing I had to do was transfer my dual caliper brackets. So I actually run a weld-on dual caliper bracket. They make bolt-on ones for these cars, but they require you to run Wilwood calipers, which are over $300 for the pair. And I didn't want to spend that on calipers when stock calipers work just fine. So you can get some weld-on brackets for about $50, and then you just run the factory calipers. So I had to take my old trailing arms off, cut off the brackets, and re-weld them onto the new trailing arms, which was a process in itself. But if you guys are interested in that, I have a video from way back showing when I first did the dual caliper setup. But yeah, so the trailing arms are all ready to go. I've got the axles and the brakes, and I got 2 M3 calipers brand new for the handbrake. Since the rotor's a lot larger, you have to use M3 calipers for both the foot brake and the handbrake. So now that we have everything ready, I just need to pull the old axles out of the car, the diff stubs, get those swapped out, and we'll get all the new stuff bolted in. So normally to get these stubs out, I would take a hammer and a chisel, and I would hit it from the backside and push it out. If they've never been out before, they usually take a little bit of persuasion to get them started. But once they've started coming out, they usually come out pretty easy. But since I've already taken my trailing arms out, I shouldn't even have to unbolt the axles. I should just be able to grab the axle and slide the whole thing out with the stub. Oh. Okay, so I went ahead and bolted the axle stubs to the axle. It's just so much easier to deal with the bolts with it outside of the car, and then I can just slide the whole thing into the diff as one unit since I don't have the trailing arms in. Okay, now we can get the trailing arms installed. I'm going to start by sliding it onto the axle, at least part way. Alright, so we got the driver's side done after a bunch of struggling. It turns out the outer wheel hub was all gouged on the inside where it slides onto the axle. So I got it started and it wouldn't go the rest of the way on. Then it was stuck, so then I had to get it back off, which was a whole huge challenge. But I got it off, I cleaned up all the teeth, and then I was able to get it back on. So here's what she looks like all complete. So now we're gonna do a quick time lapse on the passenger side, get that done, and then we'll be ready to bleed the brakes. All right, there we have it. So we got both sides done. Now the only thing left to do is bleed the brakes, and then I need to install wheel studs because I hate running lug bolts. Studs are way easier, especially with how much you change tires in drifting. So I got to do that real quick, and then after the brakes are bled, we can go test it, make sure the handbrake works properly, and yeah, we'll see how these axles are going to hold up. So I didn't end up actually getting to test the car because when I was bleeding the brakes, I realized that my subframe is tearing out of the chassis again. I've already fixed it. This is the third time now. Starting to get pretty old because you have to pull the whole subframe out, which is quite a process, but I pulled it out, got everything re-welded and fixed up and put back together. And yeah, we just didn't have time to get the car tested before needing to do other things with it. So that's going to do it for this one. Make sure you guys subscribe because we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up in the future. We're putting the 2JZ E36 on a dyno. My buddy got a drift car, so we're going to do some stuff with that. And then drift season starts, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as I am.